Tasneem, Tasneem. By Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Inshallah, we'll be starting the vigil in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. We're going to begin tonight's vigil shortly. If you would like to participate, we ask that you come to the courtyard in front of me, and we will begin shortly, inshallah. Thank you.
Not everyone's listening.
Assalamu alaikum. Once again, if you would like to participate in tonight's vigil, please come to the courtyard. Make sure you have your masks on and maintain social distancing if possible. We just want to keep everybody safe. Thank you so much again.
Can you move the shoes a little bit more? It's still in the way. Yeah, like all the way there, yeah. You mind standing or no?
Karbala, the land that has captured the heart of every person that has walked, brings that pain that described. Every single grain of sand has a story to tell. History was engraved, etched, and scarred on that sand. Their hijab and humanity. Earrings pulled from ears, brothers separated from sisters, mothers made to walk miles on burning plains, and heads of fathers, sons, brothers, and husbands displayed like a never-ending nightmare. If the sands of Karbala could talk, they would weep instead. If the winds of Karbala could sing, they would weep instead. If the waters of the Euphrates could speak, they would weep instead. With every step on this sacred land, you feel the weight of sorrow sinking you deeper and deeper into history. This is Ashura. This is Karbala. This is the journey after the 10th of Muharram.
Zainab had an amazing bond with her brother. Even before March, she had made the condition with her husband. That's when time for Hussein to go to Karbala. He should allow her to go. Islam is alive today because of Imam Hussein, but Imam Hussein's message is alive because of Zainab.
Sayyidah Zainab inspires me because of her courage and bravery. She dedicated everything she had to Imam Hussein, including her sons Own and Muhammad. After the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, she stood up against the enemies of Islam and protected the women and children. She was not afraid to speak up against the injustice that her family had faced and gave support and strength to Imam Zain al-Abidin when he was weak and sick. Till today, we commemorate her for helping to keep Islam alive.
Kulsum was actually also named Zainab, just like her older sister. She was given the title of Kulsum by her grandfather, Prophet Muhammad. Although her story is not very well known, she deserves just as much importance as Sayyidah Zainab. He learned from her father to be strong and learned the art of speech from her mother. She gave many speeches to the enemies of Islam and read majlis to the women from the prison.
My love Imam Hussein and defend those who stand up against tyrants.
Bibi Rabah was a princess who married Imam Hussein. She was the mother of Sakina and Ali Asghar and have both of her children in the way of Imam Hussein. After Karbala, she stayed in the sun, imagining how her baby son's body was left on the burning sands of Karbala without shade. She kept the sticks from the cradle of Ali Asghar, showed the people around her, and told them the maqtal of her holy son. This is how the Jula Alam came about. Bibi Rabah inspired me through her patience.
Al-Banin was the wife of Imam Ali and the mother of Hazrat Abbas. Her title means the mother of 4 sons, and she gave all of those sons to help Imam Hussein on the day of Ashura. She came from a valiant household and always remained loyal to Bibi Fatima. This is best shown by the fact that she called herself slave of Bibi Fatima and brought up her boys to be the bodyguards of the Ahlul Bayt.
Of Imam Hussein. I wish that one day I can raise children to be servants of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. Sayyidah Sukaina, the 4-year-old toddler of Imam Hussein, was the inheritor of Majlis. In the prison of Sham, she used to tell stories to the women passing by of the story. These women realized the true colors of Yazid, that when Sayyidah Sukaina passed away in the prison, there was so much uproar and protest from the people that Yazid knew his life would become in danger if he didn't release the women.
To never have my voice silent.
Bibi Lubab, the wife of Hazrat Abbas was the wife of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. She was the great-granddaughter of Abdul Muttalib, though there are no confirmed reports of her being present in Karbala. She gave 2 sons along with Hazrat Abbas as a sacrifice. She was excellent in morals and used to accompany al-Banin to Jannatul Baqi and weep over Imam Hussein alayhi salam.
Bibi Lubaba taught us to love and trust in Allah above all else. She sacrificed most of her family for Allah. We should be willing to sacrifice what we love the most for Allah.
Lady Fizza was a slave in the house of Imam Ali and Bibi Fatima. After the passing of her masters, she swore to serve the Ahlul Bayt, and by the time Karbala took place, she was an old lady. Lady Fizza never stopped serving the Ahlul Bayt, and she is a woman whose loyalty we should always try to emulate.
One woman that inspires me is Lady Zainab. She reminds me through Karbala to be loyal to my Imam of my time and do everything for the sake and pleasure of Allah. One of Lady Zainab's famous sayings is, "I see nothing but beauty." Though she felt pain and went through hardships, she knew everything was in the best hands of Allah. Her importance remains a legacy and helped the message of Imam Hussein stay alive till today.
And now a spoken word written by Sister Zainab Dalla. From Karbala to Sham, their footsteps carried with grief, their footsteps upon the burning sand singed with burns. Every footstep more painful than the last, farther from home and closer to their death. The journey that never ends, the journey that still continues. The footsteps that held all of Islam together, the footsteps that kept standing even when pushed to the ground. These are footsteps of fighters, of warriors, of the undefeated. These are the footsteps that we as an ummah will follow. We are to walk in Zainab's footsteps. I would now like to introduce Zakara, Sabr, and Mazhar Hussein to shed light on the hottest days and darkest nights after the 10th of Muharram. Salawat.
to every Husseini today who stands in Masjid al-Hayy, let us respond to Hal min Nasir Yansurna. Labbaik ya Hussein. Everyone, Labbaik ya Hussein. We cannot hear you. The sounds have to reach the plains of Karbala. Labbaik ya Hussein. And here we are today, standing on the plains of Karbala. We see Zainab Kulthum with their heads bowed down. The sands are deep and red with the blood of Hussein. And then we have them taken in shackles. And if it were not for the second phase of the revolution that is called Zainab, Karbala as a narrative wouldn't have been possible today. We see a group of ladies who have never been exposed on camelbacks, in shackles and yokes which were more tough than what the mules and the camels could bear. And we see this Zainab, the caravan of captives, the spears carrying the heads. It was the most excruciating journey which the family of Muhammad had to ever undertake. The pompous Ibn Ziyad brings them to the square of Kufa, that very Kufa which was her father's seat of government, and she was the princess there. The square is filled with ignorant people who did not realize the magnanimity of the crime that was just committed a few kilometers away. They were given false reasons, and they were said that these were rebels who had to be killed into submission. And then from there, all the ladies of the Ahlul Bayt, from Sherbanu to Rabab, from Kulthum to Fizza, from Sakina to Zainab, they tear apart the lies which were told on that square in Kufa. They stood in chains, and yet they faced the tyrant in such a way. It is said that they challenged the forces of Yazid and Ibn Ziyad. Do you think it was easy? No, it wasn't. For they had not even begun to mourn their husbands, their sons, their brothers, and they were brought into an arena which was filled with falsehood. They challenged Yazid and Ibn Ziyad in a way. They brought disgrace with their words to the so-called victors. And they wrote down in the annals of history and generations to come. And therefore, with the forces of Zainab and the ladies of Ali Muhammad, today you and me can stand in this masjid and say, Labbaik ya Hussein. Labbaik ya Hussein. They challenged the narrative of Yazid. And they insisted in saying the truth no matter how difficult it was. These protected women, they wore their yokes. Were they intimidated by Yazid? No, never. And what did they do? They crushed an empire. So much so that Yazid died a death, and Hussein lives forever in our hearts. They stood against all oppression, and they took up the challenge. Were they trained for this? It looks as if they were. And when she stands in front of Yazid, and Yazid when she undauntedly, in her scorching and scathing speech, she rips apart the Umayyad government. And she says, and Yazid in his stupor says, who is this lady who has so much pride in her? And she says to him, Yazid, what do you ask the people? Ask me and I will tell you. I am the granddaughter of your prophet. I am the daughter of Ali Murtada and Hazrat Zahra. Ask me, O Yazid. It is said that when they stood in the court of Yazid and when they spoke of the torture, this was not a small-time rebellion. This was a revolution which was going to breathe life into a dying Islam. And who else but Hussein on the plains of Karbala and Yazid's army, which was crushed by Hazrat Zainab in Sham and Kufa. She crushed them completely. And they were not ordinary mutineers, she said. These were the doyens of Islam, and they were the flesh and the blood of Rasulullah, she said. She managed to talk to Yazid, and she managed to tell him that, O Yazid, and she calls him by his title, Yabna Talaqa, O the son of freed slaves by my grandfather. Did you ever think that you could bring us in shackles and yet confine our spirits? Yazid, you should know better, that we are the granddaughters of La ilaha illallah. It is said that when she spoke in the court of Yazid, the Jews and the Christians and all the ambassadors stood up in revolution, in mutiny. And what happens next is what happens in this pandemic, in the car park of this masjid, or in the daytime on the Farsh-e-Azhar. Her next step was, Yazid, we will not go back to Karbala or Medina. We want to expose your crimes to your people. And she sets up the Farsh-e-Azhar of Husseini. That today, in this glorious masjid, as we stand in the house of worship, messages of unity and love and the inspiration that is Hussein comes through a car park to you and me, sisters and brothers in Islam. And in this car park we stand today and say, Labbaik ya Hussein, Labbaik ya Hussein. And she sent to my youth today this special paygam, this special message. If all of you are listening to the youth, if you knew this lady, you would extol her virtues, and you should read and write poetry and write your PhDs and do thesis upon this noble lady. If you knew, if the world knew what Zainab was, they would build monuments in her memory and regard her with the highest of regard. To my youth, lucky are you that you have been born in a culture that from day one you have been exposed and you have been shown the love of Zainab, her character and her spirit. Your parents, from the day your eyes opened in this dunya, have introduced you to the best lady of mankind, who after her mother Zahra. So allow me to say this piece of poetry, that Zahra ke baad Saniye Zahra to mil gayi, Zainab ke baad Saniye Zainab nahi mili. That we found a second Zahra in the being of Zainab. But after Zainab, we could not find a replica of Zainab. To my youth today, I implore you to set your eyes upon the life of Zainab. And a special paygam for you is that as she stood in patience and in trials and tribulations, this is for you, brothers and sisters, that whenever you are faced with overwhelming and intimidating actions and circumstances, stand firm like Zainab. Question every small cruelty. Do not be bogged down by the bigots and tyrants of this time. Go through the narratives of Karbala and the narratives of Muharram so that you may learn to stand up for truth. And do not accept any injustice, any acts of injustice, be it gender, be it race, be it color, or be it creed. Stand up and reject all the slaves and the tyrants of this world. Zainab and Karbala inspires us to work hard to establish a decent society full of moral values, those values that Zainab Kubra stood for. And with this, let me just say one word, and I want you all to reply in unison so that our voices reach Sham and our voices reach Karbala, whether the brother and the sister, Abbas and Zainab, look towards us with mercy and with the gratitude that today in the darkness of the night we say, Labbaik ya Zainab, Labbaik ya Zainab, Labbaik ya Abbas, Labbaik ya Abbas, Hussain Zindabad, Hussain Zindabad, wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Thank you, Zakira, Sabir, Mazhar Hussain, for those inspirational words about Bibi Zainab. Inshallah, we all find the courage that she had to stand up against injustice. I would now like to invite Sayyid Bilal Rizvi to give us some final words on the journey that will never be forgotten. Salawat.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The night is the night before the day of Ashura. And this night, in many ways, is the night of those mothers who would give away their children on the following day. Each and every one of you, you know what the heart of a mother is. I don't have to tell you. A mother's heart is that heart that when God says, you want to look at my mercy, first go and understand your mother's heart. And your mother's heart is only a portion of what I give towards you. But you see, on this night, these mothers, when they would speak towards their children, they wouldn't make excuses for them. They wouldn't say that don't go tomorrow. You find each of them would speak towards their children. That Layla would speak to Ali Akbar and say, oh Ali Akbar, go on my behalf. that Kulthum, she would wait to have somebody, Aba Fadl Abbas would go towards Kulthum. You find that the lady Zainab, she would speak towards her children Aun and Muhammad. And she would say, "Oh Aun and Muhammad, you are the grandchildren of Ali bin Abi Talib that don't drink from the water until the children of Hussein have drunk from the water." You see, the legacy of Karbala is the legacy of those mothers. Because Karbala was that event, that it was easier to be martyred in Karbala than to live after Karbala. You see, you've always heard the names of these women, Zainab, Kulthum. But what history says about after Karbala is that you find that when you look at how long each of them lived after Karbala, it shows the impact of what they contributed. Sayyida Zainab, they say, passed away 3 years after Karbala. Kulthum passes away 2 years after Karbala. Rabab passes away 6 months after Karbala. Layla passes away 3 months after Karbala. Is that why did they put themselves through this difficulty? You find this difficulty was only in the path of Hussein, and it was in the deen and the path of God. That even to the extent that when the 2 cut heads of the children of Sayyida Zainab, they were given back towards the caravan of Ahlul Bayt, you find Sayyida Zainab, she doesn't take those heads. So they began to say that, why don't you take these heads? She says that I am from the house of Ahlul Bayt. When we give away something in the path of God, we don't take it back. You see, Zainab was willing to give away her children in the path of Hussein. The question we need to ask is, what are we willing to give? That Rabab gave Ali Asghar, Zainab gave Aun and Muhammad, Kulthum gave Abbas. We're not asked to make that sacrifice that they're asked to make. But you find this is a question which we need to ask ourselves. Because if the legacy of the remembrance of Hussein is there today, then it's because of Sayyida Zainab and those women in Karbala. You see, when Sayyida Zainab, she went to the court of Yazid, she went as a captive. Her hands were tied upon that day. Imam Zain al-Abidin, he says, we sat like servants in the court of Yazid. But when Yazid would belittle Ahlul Bayt, when he would poke the head of Sayyid al-Shuhada with a stick, Sayyida Zainab would stand, she would say, Ya Yazid, Kad kaidak wa nasib juhdak was'a sayak la tamhu dhikrana. She would say, O Yazid, plot your plots and make your effort. You will never be able to erase the memory of us, Ali Muhammad. You see, then the statement, it didn't make sense. Because you had a captive in the court of the Caliph. But I say, look around the world today. That anyone who tried to stop the remembrance of Sayyid al-Shuhada, they fell. That where is the palace of Yazid today? Where is the palace of Mutawakkil today? You find none of these palaces remain. Even when you go to that Damascus, where Sayyida Zainab was a captive in Damascus, the name of Yazid is nowhere to be found at Damascus today. But the moment you enter that city, it's written on the walls of the city that welcome to the city of Sayyida Zainab. You see, this was the power of Zainab. This was the power of one woman in Karbala. That it is through her that all of these palaces, they fell, but her memory, it remained. You see, as I was walking over here, I saw that people, they had their candles within their hand. You know, it's a tradition in many places that when you go to the shrines of the imams, you take a candle over there. I've seen in Najaf, people taking a candle to the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen. I've seen in Karbala that there is a tradition that they take the candle over there. You know, even in Sham, it's stated that there is a tribe in Damascus that to the grave of the daughter of Hussein, they take a candle over there. You ask them, why do you do this? They say the reason we do this is that we don't want the daughter of Hussein to sleep in darkness. But I say there is one grave, and that grave is in Jannatul Baqi. That broken grave which doesn't even have anyone to take a candle towards that grave. And that is the grave of Fatimatu Zahra. You see, tonight's discussion was about these mothers, but at the source of all of these mothers was the example of Zahra. That Zahra, even with a broken rib, holding her broken rib, she would go towards the court, she would speak about the right of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And tonight we remember Zahra, and we remember those mothers who were the children of Janab Zahra. We say, O God, upon this night, this blessed night where the doors of the heavens are open, through the right of Sayyida Zainab, that, O Allah, we pray for the forgiveness of our sins. We pray for those who are sick and ailing in our community. We pray for those who are in need of du'as. And we pray for the hastening of the reappearance of the master of our time. You know, as I was looking at these candles, I was reminded of one more thing, and that is the night after Ashura. You see, on that night, it wasn't candles that the women of Ahlul Bayt would look at. They would look at those burning tents that Imam Zainul Abidin says they would run from one burning tent to another. We ask through the right of the women of these Ahlul Bayt. Once again, we pray for the hastening of the reappearance of the master of our time. And it was requested of me to request from you to blow out the candles and to end the program with our du'as asked from Allah. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ.
بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. گودی میں آؤ اصغر جھولا تیرا جھولاؤ. گودی میں آؤ اصغر جھولا تیرا جھولاؤ. راتوں کو جاگ کر میں لوری تمہیں سناؤ. گودی میں آؤ اصغر جھولا تیرا جھولاؤ. بیت غرن میں تو آئے قاتل کا سامنا تھا. دل ٹوٹتا ہے میرا تو لوٹ کے نہ آیا. کوئی نہیں ہمارا اب کس کو میں بلاؤں. گودی میں آؤ اصغر جھولا تیرا جھولاؤ. دریا کے پاس بھی تو سہروز کا تھا پیاسا. پانی کے بدلے بیٹا ایک تیر تو نے کھایا. پانی کے ساتھ اب میں کیسے نظر ملاؤں. گودی میں آؤ اصغر جھولا تیرا جھولاؤ. تھی آگ کی زمین تھی پیاس کی وہ شدت کس حال میں ہوئی تھی بیٹا تیری شہادت. یہ بات جانتی ہوں سائے میں کیسے جاؤں. گودی میں آؤ اصغر جھولا تیرا جھولاؤ. پوچھیں گی جب سکینہ بھائی میرا کہاں ہے. اماں ذرا بتاؤ اصغر تو میری جان ہے. بے چین ہے سکینہ کیسے اسے مناؤں. گودی میں آؤ اصغر جھولا تیرا جھولاؤ. نیزے پہ تیرا سر جب میری نظر میں آیا تھی میرا سن میں لیکن ایک بات نے ستایا. ظالم کے پتھروں سے کیسے تجھے بچاؤں. گودی میں آؤ اصغر جھولا تیرا جھولاؤ. تو تیر کھا کے سویا جلتی زمیں پہ بیٹا زندان شام میں پھر مر جائیں گی سکینہ یثرب کو لوٹ کر میں صغرا کو کیا بتاؤں گودی میں آؤ اصغر جھولا تیرا جھولا سنتے ہو تیر تم نے حلقوم پہ ہے کھایا تیرا گھلا چھدا ہے تو خون میں نہایا کربل کی خاک سر پر کیسے نب اڑاؤں گودی میں آؤ اصغر جھولا تیرا جھولاؤ گودی میں آؤ اصغر جھولا تیرا جھولاؤ راتوں کو جاگ کر میں لوری تمہیں سناؤں سورة مباركة الفاتحة
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد Karbala, 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 your Lord drew you upon every eye. Karbala, 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 your name flows with every tear and cry. Karbala, 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 I give you a present with my life. Karbala, 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 so on the day of judgment, my head will be high. Allahumma razaqna Karbala bihaqqi sayyid ash-shuhada. Allahumma razaqna Karbala bihaqqi sayyid ash-shuhada. How much I've been dreaming, daily my heart screaming, Hussein. My eyes are begging me, saying we wanna see Hussein. My feet they keep walking, thinking they'll be reaching Hussein. My body's calling you, it comes running to you, Hussein. Karbala, 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 you've stolen my body away from my mind. Karbala, 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 till I see you I'm walking deaf and blind. Allahumma arzuqna Karbala بحق سيد الشهداء. Allahumma arzuqna Karbala بحق سيد الشهداء. They told me, come walking, Master, I came running, Hussein. Far away from my home, yet home is by his dome, Hussein. I step over death's head, and through death I will head, Hussein. Your shrine is worth my death, your name worth my last breath, Hussein. Karbala, 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 even death shakes when I mention your name. Karbala, 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 because even the dead walk calling Hussein. Allahumma arzuqna Karbala بحق سيد الشهداء. اللهم ارزقنا كربلاء بحق سيد الشهداء. When finally I see heaven in front of me, Hussein, I'll cry peace upon you, and I'll give my soul to Hussein. I gave all to visit, and it'll be worth it, Hussein. For I know when I die, I'll be visited by Hussein. Karbala, 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 I'll thank you when I stand next to Hussein. Karbala, 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 for my return in your sandal, write my name. Allahumma arzuqna Karbala بحق سيد الشهداء. Allahumma arzuqna Karbala بحق سيد الشهداء. صوت مبارك الفاتحة.
Starts with सलवात पढ़िए मोहम्मदिन व आलि मोहम्मद अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मोहम्मदिन व आलि मोहम्मद. जब जुल्फ़िकार मातमे असग़र में रो चुकी, जब जुल्फ़िकार मातमे असग़र में रो चुकी, नन्ही सी कब्र खोद के खूंबार हो चुकी, कुर्ता लहू बरा हुआ, अश्कों से धो चुकी, بچے کے ساتھ بانو کی قسمت بھی سو چکی، پانی نہ تھا جو شاہ چھڑکتے مزار پر، پانی نہ تھا جو شاہ چھڑکتے مزار پر، آنسو ٹپک پڑے لہدے شیر خار پر، جب ذوالفقار ماتم میں۔ پارے دیگر صلوات۔ اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد۔ قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی، قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی، شیخ کو ایک چاند چھپانے میں بہت دیر لگی، ہائے قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی، کچھ قدم دور ہے بازار سے دربار، مگر کچھ قدم دور ہے بازار سے دربار، مگر پھر بھی شہزادی کو آنے میں بہت دیر لگی، ہائے قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی، شے نے ہر لاش کو جلدی سے اٹھایا، لیکن شے نے ہر لاش کو جلدی سے اٹھایا، لیکن لاش اکبر کی اٹھانے میں بہت دیر لگی، ہائے قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی، ٹکڑے چنتے ہوئے قاسم کے کہا مولا نے، ٹکڑے چنتے ہوئے قاسم کے کہا مولا نے، ہائے ابا ہائے افسوس کے آنے میں بہت دیر لگی، ہائے قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی، ہائے اس قدر پیاس سے سوکھا تھا गुलवे सरवर इस कदर प्यास से सूखा था, गुलवे सरवर शिम्र को तेग चलाने में बहुत देर लगी, हाय कब्र असगर की बनाने में बहुत देर लगी। करबला जाके तकल्लुम ने यही पूछा था, करबला जाके तकल्लुम ने यही पूछा था, मुझको सरकार बुलाने में बहुत देर लगी, हाय कब्र असगर की बनाने में बहुत देर लगी। को एक चांद छुपाने में बहुत देर लगी, हाय कब्र असगर की बनाने में बहुत देर लगी। सलवात पढ़िए मोहम्मद।
Sayyid Bilal Rizvi, respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Surah Fatiha is requested for the Isal Sawab of Marhumin, listed on the screen, and for all Marhumin. Al-Fatiha. Ayyam Mujibu is requested for the names listed on the screen and for all those in need here and elsewhere. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mustarra iza dahu wa yakshifu su. Amma yujibul mustarra iza dahu wa yakshifu su. عما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء عما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء عما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. اللهم صل على. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all our sponsors for their generous support. Alhamdulillah, we have reached 56% of our target of $80,000 for the Muharram fund. During these nights of Azah, we would like to request those of you who have not yet contributed towards the Muharram fund to kindly make a donation which will help cover the various expenses for running the program here at the Masjid. We suggest a donation of $200 per family, However, any amount is welcome. Social distance reminder. Just a reminder to all those who are attending the programs here at the Masjid to follow safety guidelines, including observe social distancing throughout the time you're at the mosque. Face masks will be required to be worn. Please bring your own masks with you. If you do not have one while entering, one will be provided to you. If you're not well or feel that you may be ill, stay at home until you're fully recovered. Follow all guidelines and instructions from volunteers. Alhamdulillah, by the grace of Almighty Allah, our children have surpassed their goals to build one well. They have managed to build 4 wells in Pakistan. They have been so giving and contributing, the theme of the workshop, live like Hussein. So they are going one step further in giving like Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein would give, so they are contributing to answer the call of Al-Tash and partnering with those who is Hussein Well Project, building wells in Africa. You can donate to either one or both. If you want to build in Pakistan or Africa, please specify, otherwise it will be split evenly between the 2 organizations. Please contact Tahira Jaffer with further details. Karbala Project. Alhamdulillah, with the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have built a Karbala project at Masjid al-Hayy. This year, with the assistance of Dar es Salaam Shia Boys Troop Scouts, this is an effort to provide a visual representation of the Battle of Karbala to showcase the journey of the Imam and his family. The model will be up from tonight until this Sunday. A blood drive will be held tomorrow from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. in the Masjid al-Hayy parking lot. Donors receive a free wellness check, which includes a COVID-19 antibody test. Please visit the link on the screen to sign up. The Youth Committee is selling hoodies for Lebanon. All proceeds will be going straight to Beirut. Visit the link on the screen to pre-order today. For more information for all these events, check the weekly newsletter, contact 407-408-1048, and check us out on Instagram, Hayy_youth. Food drive. Masjid al-Hayy has partnered with Who is Hussein for a food drive for these 12 nights. We are collecting non-perishable items and boxes kept at both the men's and ladies' entrances. WIH Well Project. This Muharram, Who is Hussein and the children at Masjid al-Hayy are working together to raise funds to build deep wells in Tanzania through WePass as part of their Gift of Water campaign. Each well will provide access to clean water to an estimated 500 people a day. They have already raised money to build 3 wells and are looking to build more inspired by Hussein ibn Ali. The cost to build each well is $2,500. One can sponsor a well for themselves or their deceased ones to them and to leave them a legacy. On a special note, a generous donor is willing to match every donation made for a total of $2,500. So please donate any amount, however small, by the 12th of Muharram, and it will be doubled. Let's come together to provide this basic necessity of clean water to those in need and inspired by Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam. Please play the video.
Tanzania is one of the largest countries in Africa, but scarcity of water is one of the most crucial issues faced for years now. According to the World Health Organization, 1 out of 6 people lack access to safe drinking water in Tanzania.
We had to leave before dark to get to the water source. It would take us 2 hours to walk there. Then we would wait in line for hours. We used to get pushed around and shoved out of line by people stronger than we were.
I remember when we had no clean water. We would go fetch water far away in the mountains, and we would come back home late at night, tired and hungry.
Water shortage has an impact on the well-being and economic activities of the community. It leads to poor sanitation, lack of safe drinking water, leading to epidemics of infectious diseases such as cholera, typhoid, and diarrhea. As people spend most of their time to fetch water, they're not able to earn a living, and this leads to increased poverty. Women and children are most affected. They wake up early and instead of going to school, walk a distance of 3 to 6 miles daily in search of water from natural streams or dirty water sources, carrying heavy containers on their heads, each weighing about 20 to 25 liters. This chronic water shortage leads to over 10,000 children dying every year from diarrhea due to unsafe water and poor sanitation in Tanzania. Because the situation is dire, we are partnering with WIPAS to build deep wells using latest technology that caters for more than 500 people and requires minimal maintenance. The cost to build each well is $2,500. You can sponsor a well for yourself or your deceived loved ones to leave them a legacy. Please donate any amount, however small, so we're able to meet our goal to provide clean water to those in need.
Please recite salawat. We humbly request parents to keep their children away from the main stage. Thank you. One final announcement for those of you watching the program live from your car. We kindly ask that you turn off your headlights once you are parked. At this time, I would like to request Sayyid Bilal to recite tonight's madhus. By Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, salawat.
رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن الرحيم. نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. Let's move it a little bit lower. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعدم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بسيدنا ومولانا أبي عبد الله الحسين، والحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين، والذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على صاحب الدعوة النبوية والصولة الحيدرية والإسمة الفاطمية والحلم الحسنية والشجاعة الحسينية والإبادة السجادية والمآثر الباقرية والآثار الجعفرية والعلوم الكادمية والحجج الردبية والجود التقوية والنقاوة النكوية والهيبة العسكرية والغيبة الإلهية. اللهم عجل فرجه وساهل مخرجا. أما بعد فقد قال الإمام زين العابدين: يا من تحل به عقد المكاره ويا من يفتأ به حد الشدائد. صدق مولانا الإمام زين العابدين. For the love of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the love of Fatima al-Zahra, a second salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In condolences for that Imam who says, every morning, every evening I cry for my grandfather Hussein, another salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The night we've entered upon is the night before the day of Ashura, the night of Tasu'a, as it's called, the night of Shab Ashur. We started this journey on the 1st of Muharram. I see many faces that have been sitting in front of me since then. And we've examined as-Sahifatu Sajjadiyah and the du'as of Imam Zainul Abidin. If you remember, on the first night I said that one of the outcomes of Karbala was this compilation of du'as, because it was with a broken heart that Imam Zainul Abidin would call upon his Creator. And upon this night, we've entered one of the most difficult nights in the history of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. You see, ulama, they discussed, and scholars, they analyzed, that what was the hardest night for Ahlul Bayt? One group said it's when Ahlul Bayt, they left Medina. Because Medina was the sanctuary of Ahlul Bayt. Medina is where the grave of Rasulullah was. Medina is where the grave of their mother Fatima al-Zahra was. But no, others, they said it was that night after Ashura of Sham-e Ghariba, when the tents were burnt, and from one burning tent to another, the women of Ali Muhammad, they would go. But no, others, they said that it was this night of Shab-e Ashur, this night of Tasu'a. You see, on the 9th of Muharram, Umar bin Sa'ad, he was ready to attack the camp of Sayyid al-Shuhada. But this was that night that Imam al-Hussein, he asked for this night. He sent Abbas, he sent Habib ibn al-Madahir to go and speak with Umar bin Sa'ad. He says, "O Abbas, tell him that tonight we want to spend this night in the worship of Allah. We want to spend it in the recitation of the Quran. We want to spend it in making dua and asking for istighfar." You see, the Imam, each of these different actions, the Imam wanted to spend this night in the ibadah of Allah. This night, which was one of the most difficult nights for Ahlul Bayt, that tomorrow it would be clear, that it would be the plains of Karbala, it would be Hussein on the plains of Karbala. That some point he would go to the body of Ali Akbar. At another point he would collect the pieces of Qasim. At another point he would pick up the cut arms of Abbas. It was that day of Ashura which was coming. But you know what Ahlul Bayt showed us tonight? They showed us, oh man, if you have any difficulties, if you have any problems and trials, number one, there is no challenge and difficulty like the difficulty of Hussein in Karbala. But at the second level, they showed us that when challenges and trials come upon you, then go and speak towards your Creator. Go and attach yourselves to the Imam of your time. You see, on this night before Ashura, it's stated that Imam al-Hussein, he goes outside of his tent, right? And he goes towards the battlefield. There was a companion of the Imam, his name was Nafi'. Nafi', he follows Sayyid al-Shuhada. The Imam, he turns around. He says, "Oh Nafi', why are you following me upon this day? Nafi says, oh my master, I was worried. You were going towards the army of Umar bin Saad. Imam al-Husayn says, oh Nafi, I only came to look at the landscape of Karbala. On one side of Imam al-Husayn was the desert, right? The other side of Sayyid al-Shuhada were the mountains and the valleys. Imam al-Husayn, he looks towards the mountains. Then he looks at Nafi. He says, oh Nafi, you see those mountains? You have my permission to go, O Nafi. O Nafi, I'll do your intercession on the day of judgment. You know what Nafi says? Nafi, he shows us that what is difficulty, the only true difficulty is to leave the Imam of your time. Nafi says, oh my master, as long as I have my sword, as long as my horse has breath within it, I will be on your side. You see, when we say in ziyarah about the companions of Hussein, and we say, Assalamu alaikum ya ansara deen Allah, that, O companions of Hussein, you are not just the companions of Aba Abdullah, but you are the companions of the deen of Allah. If you ever want to understand who these companions were, what line do you say in ziyarah? You say, Bi abi antum wa ummi, that may my mother and my father be sacrificed for you, O ashab of Hussein. But have you ever reflected in your life who said these lines? Imam as-Sadiq said these lines. Who is the father of the Imam? The father of the Imam is Imam Muhammad al-Baqir. An infallible Imam is saying that may an infallible Imam be sacrificed for you, O ashab of Hussein. You see, these are those companions. When they reached this status, they reached it through trial and tribulation. It was only through the challenge of Karbala that they were able to be steadfast and they were able to have that status with Sayyid al-Shuhada. You see, on this night, it stated Imam al-Husayn, he would recite a verse of the Quran. You know what verse the Imam would recite? He would say, وَلَا يَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّمَا نُمْلِي لَهُمْ خَيْرٌ لِأَنفُسِهِمْ إِنَّمَا نُمْلِي لَهُمْ لِيَزْدَادُوا إِثْمًا وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ مُهِينٌ. Sayyid al-Shuhada would say that those who disbelieve don't think that us granting them respite is good for them. No, the only reason we delay things for them is so they can increase in sins. And then you know what Sayyid al-Shuhada recites? He says, مَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيَذَرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ عَلَى مَا أَنْتُمْ عَلَيْهِ حَتَّى يَمِيزَ الْخَبِيثَ مِنَ الطَّيِّبِ. Sayyid al-Shuhada says, it's not for God to leave the believers in their state until He has differentiated between the righteous and the unrighteous. You see, you and I, we ask the question, is that why are we faced with challenges in life? Why are we faced with hardships in life? That you and I, when we're faced with challenges and hardships, oftentimes it breaks our faith in God. That we say, oh God, we did everything, but why are you putting us through this? You see, when our faith in God, it breaks because of trials, Ahlul Bayt, when they were faced with trials, their certainty in God would manifest itself. When they asked Amir al-Mu'mineen, oh Ali, how did you recognize your Lord? Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, I recognize my Lord by the breaking of my aspirations and the falling short of my intentions. Oftentimes in my life, I wanted to carry out something, but I wasn't able to carry it out. And because of that, I recognize there is somebody else who manages my affairs. You see, Ahlul Bayt are the ones that they recognize God through God. They recognize God through the reality of God. On this night, Sayyid al-Shuhada, when he would recite this verse which I just quoted, you see this verse, it shows one of the reasons why you and I are faced with trial and tribulation. One of the reasons we're faced with trial and tribulation is because it is through trial that God, He differentiates between the believers and those who don't have belief. You see, it's impossible to create a world with free will without hardships. That for mankind to maximize its potential and to attain perfection, there needs to be hardships. After all, when is a diamond formed within the ground? A diamond is formed when the pressure of the earth comes upon it, and those compounds, they form something valuable. That this is the value of tests and trials. And when you look at this reality, you find this is evident in the seerah of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, that each of these companions, Sayyid al-Shuhada, would test these companions. On this night of Shab Ashura, Imam al-Hussein would list each of the Shuhada, and he would take the name of Akbar, and he would take the name of Abbas. He would even take the name of the 6-month Ali Asghar. You know, when names were being called, Imam al-Hussein, he says, "Oh Abbas, maybe my companions are embarrassed to leave me, oh Abbas. Oh Abbas, extinguish the candle." You know, when Aba Fadl Abbas, he extinguishes the candle, and Imam al-Hussein, he turns it on again. All of the companions of the Imam were standing there. At that point, you find that a companion like Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, he says, "Oh my master, even if they cut my limbs and they burn my body and they throw my ashes and they bring me back to life, 1,000 times I would do the same thing for you, O my master." You see, these were the companions of Hussein. It is through tests that we understood the reality of these companions. But no, what is another reason why we face trial and tribulation? A second reason why we face trial and tribulation is because God, He purifies the heart through trial and tribulation. You see, God, He says, "O human being, if you want to reach me, I'm going to break your heart." But it is through the breaking of these hearts that you attain the truest of realities. You know, when they said to Imam as-Sadiq, "Where is God?" You know what Imam as-Sadiq said? Imam as-Sadiq said, "Ma'an kasara qulubuhum," that God is with the broken-hearted. You see, through the breaking of these hearts, God, He says, "O human being," that oftentimes if you were left to your natural course without difficulties, you would become attached towards things which don't have permanent benefit from you. But it is through these hardships that your heart, they move in a different direction. They move in the direction of peace. They move in the direction of permanence. That's why the awliya of Allah, you find they were given the hardest of challenges. They were given the hardest of challenges because they were closest to God. You know, you look at somebody like Amir al-Mu'mineen. Rasulullah would say, "Oh Ali, there is no one who is more oppressed than you, O Ali bin Abi Talib." One day Amir al-Mu'mineen, he's walking through the streets of Medina. As the Imam is walking through the streets of Medina, there are two men, they're discussing that what is the hardest moment in the life of a person. One of them, he says, when a man can't provide for his family. The other one says, no, when he passes away. You know what Amir al-Mu'mineen says? The Imam says the hardest moment is when the husband is like Ali, the wife is like Zahra. They come to burn the door to the house of Fatima, and Ali can't do anything at that moment. How broken was the heart of Amir al-Mu'mineen that Imam Ali in Nahj al-Balagha, at the grave of Zahra, he says that she was a rose from the heavens, And that rose has left me. The only thing left is the fragrance of Zahra. You see, it's not always that it's because of sins that we have trials and tests. No. Ahlul Bayt were infallible. Ahlul Bayt were ma'soom. But Ahlul Bayt, they faced the most difficult of trials. But in each of these trials, you find these Imams of Ahlul Bayt, these infallible individuals, they would connect with Allah even after Ashura. Imam Zainul Abidin, he sees Sayyida Zainab praying as she sits upon the desert sands. Imam Zainul Abidin says, "Oh my aunt, why do you pray in this manner?" Sayyida Zainab says, "I don't have the strength to stand anymore. After all, this Zainab, she is the daughter of Fatima to Zahra." One day when Fidda, she goes into the room of Fatima, she sees one day that Fatima is sitting on the ground. One hand is up in qunut to pray to Allah. One hand is on a rib which was broken. Fidda says, "Oh Fatima, why do you pray in this manner?" Zahra says, "Oh Fidda, after my rib was broken, I don't have the energy to lift both hands." This is that Ahlul Bayt. In this type of difficulty, they would remember Allah. What challenges do we face and what do they face? You see, our Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin, he's that Imam that for 35 years he would cry for his father. You've heard the Masayib of Hussein. The Masayib of Hussein, it breaks your heart, doesn't it? But can I ask you a question? You've only heard the Masayib of Hussein. You never saw with your eyes what happened in Karbala. Zainul Abidin is the one who saw with his eyes. But you know what Zainul Abidin would do in his sorrows? Imam Zainul Abidin, he would turn towards his creator. And when you look at dua number 7 of the Sahifat al-Sajjadiyah, all of our scholars, they say, whenever you have any hardship, any difficulties, hold on to the recitation of dua 7. Because dua number 7 was that dua which Imam Zainul Abidin would recite in difficulties. And I myself have seen Sayyid Sistani give this advice to individuals that if you have hardships, recite dua 7. You know what Imam Zainul Abidin says in this dua? He says, Ya man tuhallu bihi uqadul makare. You see, the Imam, when he speaks, his words, they sit in the heart. Because the Imam, he recognizes the condition of the heart. The Imam says, "O you, the one who unties the knots of the detested things." That when you're in hardship, everything, it seems to be a knot. There seems to be no way out. The Imam says, "O Allah, you are the one who unties the knot of those difficult things." And then he says, "Wa ya man yufta'u bihi haddu shada'id." And oh Allah, you are the one who dulls the cutting edge of hardship. It's as if hardship, when it comes, it cuts through your heart. The Imam says, "Oh Allah, you are the one who dulls this cutting edge." And then after that he says, "Wa ya man yultamasu minhul makhraju ila rohil faraj." And oh Imam, the Imam says, "Oh Allah, you are the one that we request a movement towards relief from you, oh Allah. Dallat liqudratika si'ab." That, oh Allah, every hardship because of you becomes manageable. وَتَسَبَّبَتْ بِاللُّطْفِكَ الْأَسْبَابِ. And oh Allah, because of your kindness, every door it opens. And oh Allah, there is no hardship except you are the remover. And oh Allah, you are the one who gives us relief. In this manner, Zainul Abidin speaks towards his creator. Have you ever seen a dua like this anywhere? That the condition of the heart of this individual, how he would speak to Allah. You see, the day of Ashura, was that day when Ahlul Bayt, they would show what does it mean to be contented in trial. When Imam Hussein, he begins the day of Ashura, he says, Allahumma anta tiqati fi kulli karbin wa raja'i fi kulli shidda. That, oh Allah, you are the one I rely upon in every trial, and you are my hope in every difficulty. And then after that he says, oh Allah, that how many affairs were there that I held on towards you, and how many sorrows are there that weaken the heart, oh Allah, and the solutions cannot be found. You see, Sayyid al-Shuhada would speak in this manner. I didn't come to recite in length tonight. Tonight, I just came to recite the Masayib of Sayyid al-Shuhada and the Masayib of the 6-month child of Hussein. You see, tonight, there shouldn't be an eye without tears within it. Many of you, I see that you're sitting in your cars. Some of you are sitting in front of me. Can I ask you a question? Is there anyone amongst you who's sitting on the desert sands like Zainab would sit upon after Karbala as she would cry for her brother Hussein? No. Is there anyone to stop you as tears they fall? It was only the daughter of Hussein, Sakina, that when she would shed tears for her father, Shimar would go towards Sakina. He would take his hand towards the daughter of Hussein and hit that girl only because she was crying for her father. Tonight is the night before Ashura. This is that night that Imam Hussein, he divided this night into 3 portions. One was for the ibadah of Allah. The second was for his companions. The third was for his Ahlul Bayt. Imam Hussein, he would walk past the tents of each of the women. Each of the women would speak towards their beloved. Layla would speak towards Ali Akbar. Farwa would speak towards Qasim. Sayyida Zainab would say, O Muhammad, you are the grandchildren of Ali bin Abi Talib. Tomorrow I know you'll reach the Furat. But when you reach the Furat, don't drink from that water unless the children of Hussein have drank from that water. You know, as Imam al-Hussein, he would see all of the women speak towards their children. There was one lady in her tent alone. She would cry over there. But you know what she would say as she would cry? She would say, I don't have any children to give for my brother Hussein. That lady was Kulthum. As Kulthum was shedding those tears, Aba Fadl Abbas is the one who couldn't handle seeing his sister in tears. I say, oh Abbas, what would you do if you saw Zainab after Karbala? Abbas, he goes to the tent. He says, oh my sister, I'll be your sacrifice. I'll give my life on your behalf. But as Sayyid al-Shuhada was going, there was one other lady. She would speak towards her infant. You know who that lady was? That lady was Rabab. Rabab would say, oh Ali Asghar, I wish you were older, oh Ali Asghar. Then you could go and sacrifice yourself for our master Hussein. If only Rabab knew a time would come that even Asghar would be slaughtered in the plains of Karbala. Sayyid al-Shuhada in this manner, he goes through the tents of each of the women. But when he went again to the tent of Sayyida Zainab, you know what Sayyida Zainab, she says? She says, oh my brother, have you tested these companions? It stated Habib ibn Madahir, he heard Sayyida Zainab say this. Habibi says, oh Nafi, gather all of the companions. We're going to go to the tent of Sayyida Zainab. All of the companions of Hussein on this night, they gather in front of the tent of Sayyida Zainab. They say, "O daughter of Ali, if you tell us to cut our necks at this moment, we'll cut our necks and we'll put it by your footsteps, O daughter of Ali." You see, this is that night of Ashura. That night is upon us. You find appointed comes. The day of Ashura, it comes. Akbar's chest has the arrow through it. The arms of Abbas were cut. The body of Qasim was broken towards pieces. Habib ibn Madair is no more. There is a body laying by the Furat. At that point, Hussein is alone. He looks towards the right. He looks towards the left. He begins to speak to the bodies of his companions. He says, "Ya Habib ibn Madahir, Ya Muslim ibn al-Awsaja, wa ya Zuhair ibn al-Kain, Ya Abtal al-Safa, wa ya Fursan al-Hijja, Mali unadikum fala tajibun." You know what the Imam says? The Imam says, "O Zuhair, O Habib, O Muslim, why is it that I call you but you don't reply towards me?" It's stated that the bodies of the companions, they began to shake at that moment. That point it comes that Hussein is alone on the day of Ashura. As Imam is alone, he makes those calls, "Ala hal min nasirin yansurna." Is there anyone to help me? Is there anyone to help the women of Rasulullah? You know, as the Imam, he made this call. Cries, they begin to come from the tent of the women. You know why those cries, they came? There were two reasons. The first reason is this, is that there was a young man who was sick on the day of Ashura. Imam Zainul Abidin, he had stood up at that moment. He said, "Oh my Aunt Zainab, bring me a sword and bring me a stick." Sayyida Zainab says, "Oh Sajjad, why do you want the sword? Why do you want the stick?" Imam Zainul Abidin, he says, "I want the sword to defend my father. I want the stick because I can't stand at this moment." Imam al-Hussein says, "Oh Zainab, take Sajjad back towards the tents. If he comes at this moment, there won't be an Imam from Ali Muhammad." This was the first reason they began to cry. If you're ready to hear it, I'll tell you the other reason why the women, they cried. Imam al-Hussein says that why are the women crying? "I am alive at this moment." They say, "Oh Hussein, your 6-month infant had fell from the cradle towards the ground." Imam al-Hussein, he goes and he takes Ali Asghar. You know, as the Imam was coming out of the tent, he would take his abba. Using his abba, he would cover Ali Asghar from the burning sun of the desert. You know, there were two occasions on the day of Ashura that the Imam, he remembered each of you. You know, the first occasion is when he bid farewell to Imam Zainul Abidin. He said, "Oh Sajjad, when you go to Medina, tell my Shia, Mahma sharibtum adba ma'in fadkuruni, O sami'tum bishahidin o gharibin fandubuni." O Sajjad, tell my Shia that whenever they drink cold water, remember me. Whenever they hear the news of somebody who is alone, remember me. But you know, the second moment where the Imam remembered you on the day of Ashura is that moment where the Imam says, "Shiyati laytakum fi yawmi Ashura jami'an tanduruni kayfa astasqi li tifli fa abaw an yarhamuni." Imam al-Hussein, he says, "Oh my Shia, I wish you were all there on the day of Ashura to see
see how I was asking for water for my infant, but instead of water, they fired an arrow at the neck of Asghar. You see, the Masayib of Ali Asghar is that only Masayib where Imam al-Hussein, he says, "Oh my Shia, I wish you saw the Masayib of Asghar." Imam al-Hussein, he comes out with Ali Asghar. He's covering the face of Ali Asghar from the sun of the desert. It's stated that the army of Umar bin Saad, they began to think that Hussein has brought the Quran with him. Sayyid al-Shuhada, he removes his abba. They see the 6-month child. Sayyid al-Shuhada, he says, "Ya Qawm, O people, qataltum awladi wa ashabi." You've killed my children. You've killed my companions. All I'm asking is for water for this infant. If I've done something wrong, this child is masoom. Sayyid al-Shuhada, he holds Ali Asghar. You know when Mukhtar, he catches Hurmala, Mukhtar says, "Oh Hurmala, was there ever a point on the day of Ashura where your heart became soft?" Hurmala says, "Oh Mukhtar, there was one point where everyone was crying. That is when Hussein brought his 6-month infant in his arms on the day of Ashura. Everyone as they cried, Umar bin Saad, he said, "Iqta kalam al-Hussein." Stop the words of Hussein. Hurmala says, "Mukhtar, I picked up my arrow, I put it back down." I picked up my arrow again, I put it back down. Mukhtar says, "Oh Hurmala, why did you put the arrow back down?" Hurmala says, "Every time I wanted to fire that arrow, I would see a lady dressed in black in front of that child. It was Fatima Zahra. She would say, 'Don't kill the son of my son.' But that point it came. I took the arrow. I fired the arrow. It was the neck of the infant of Hussein." You know, there are two narrations. One narration, it says the arrow went through the neck of Asghar. Another narration, it says the arrow, it went from the ear of Asghar. There was an alim in Najaf. They said to him, "Sayyid, which narration is correct? Did the arrow go through the neck of Asghar, or did the arrow grow through the ear of Asghar?" You know what he says? He says, "Oh man, both of them are correct. Because when Hurmala, he fired the arrow, that arrow didn't have one point at the end. It had 3 arrows coming towards it. One went through the neck, one went through the tears." You find Hussein, he stands as he holds the blood of Ali Asghar. Sayyid al-Shuhada, in the plains of Karbala, he places the blood of Ali Asghar upon his face. But now that point it comes, that how is a father supposed to tell a mother that her infant was slaughtered? Imam al-Hussein, he takes 7 steps towards the dance. He takes 7 steps back. He says, "Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, ridan biqada'i." The Imam, he says, "Ridan biqada'ihi wa tasliman li amrih." You know, I wish this is where the musibah of Ali Asghar it ends. Sayyid al-Shuhada, he buries Ali Asghar. Imam al-Hussein didn't want the mother of Asghar to see her infant in this state. But you know, that night called Sham-e-Ghariba, it came. As the army of Umar bin Saad, They were counting the heads of the shuhada. They noticed that one head was missing. One man, he says, where is the head of the infant of Hussein? Umar bin Saad, he sends 4 horse riders. They go towards the tent of Hussein. They would put their arrow into the ground. They would stab their arrows in towards the ground. But one point it came. They put their arrow in the ground. On the other side, the body of Ali Asghar. They take their sword. They put it on the neck of the infant. They place the head of Asghar upon an arrow. Zainab, she says, Rabab, go inside Rabab. Rabab, don't look. Ya Hussein.
خون میں نہائے ہوئے آتے ہیں اصغر علی خون میں نہائے ہوئے گل ہوا آتے ہیں اصغر علی آخری تسلیم کو خون میں نہائے ہوئے من کا ڈلا ہے ہوا دم بھی ہے اخرا ہوا سینے میں الجا ہوا خون میں نہائے ہوئے اے زمین کربلا جھولا جھولا نہ اسے اے زمین کربلا جس سے نراسا ہے بھوکا پیاسا ہے دودھ پلانا اسے اے زمین کربلا نازوں کا پالا ہے راتوں کا جاگا ہے گودی سولا نہ اسے اے زمین کربلا جھولا جھولا نہ اسے اے زمین کربلا بانو نے کہا اصغر آ دودھ پلاؤں پلاؤں میں ماں صدقے گئی تم پر دودھ پلاؤں میں بانو ماں صدقے گئی تم پر دودھ پلاؤں میں یہی ایک رات ہے باقی شہ مظلوم جب آئی شب عاشور ہے لوگو کہاں سر کو کچانے کی یہی ایک رات ہے باقی شہ مظلوم جب آئی شب عاشور ہے لوگو سکینہ یوں لگی کہنے کہ اے بابا کہو مجھ کو سکینہ یوں لگی کہنے کہ اے بابا کہو مجھ کو تمہیں کیا سر کٹانے کی یہی ایک رات ہے باقی شہ مظلوم جب آئی شب عاشور ہے لوگو کہاں سر کو کچانے کی یہی ایک رات ہے باقی تو اب مجھ کو ہوا معلوم کہ بے والیو وارث کی تو اب مجھ کو ہوا معلوم کہ بے والیو وارث کی رداؤں کے چھینانے کی یہی ایک رات ہے باقی شہ مظلوم جب آئی شب عاشور ہے لوگو کہاں سر کو کچانے کی یہی ایک رات ہے
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein. Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Brothers, if I can request you to make 2 lines over here for Matam, just make sure you keep your distances. 2 lines for Matam here, please. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں میرے لاڈلے کہاں ہو میرے لاڈلے کہاں ہو سینے تمہیں لگاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس جواب ازادارو اصغر میں تیری بیٹا تمہارا قاتل میرے سامنے کھڑا ہے جانے کیوں ہنس رہا ہے چاہتے بھی لٹ چکی ہے منہ کس طرح چھپاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں تیرے جھولے کو سکینہ رو رو کے چومتی ہے تجھے گھر میں ڈھونڈتی ہے تیری موت کی خبر میں کیسے اسے سناؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں میری جان جا رہی ہے یہ سوچ سوچ اصغر اس پھول سے گلے پر یہ تیر کیسے جھیلا بہنوں کو کیا بتاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں آؤں میں تیری ماں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں نیزے سے گر رہا سا سر تمہارا دل روتا ہے ہمارا میرے ہاتھ تو بندھے ہیں سر کس طرح اصغر میں تیری ماں جانے
تیری آس میں بجھاؤں جب رات کی میں ہو جائے گا اندھیرا اصغر میں تیری ماں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری نشانی کس طرح سے بچاؤں ہوں آ جاؤ چاند میرے تیری پیاس میں بجھاؤں اصغر میں تیری ماں
یا حسین اماں فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اماں فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اماں فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں کیسا ہے یہ چراغا دل ڈوبے جا رہے ہیں کیا شام آ گیا ہے اماں فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اماں فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں ہونے لگی اذانیں کیسے سروں کو ڈھانپے ارے بازو بندھے ہوئے ہیں خون رو رہی ہے آنکھیں آنکھوں کے خون سے رستے خون میں نہا رہے ہیں کیا شام آ گیا ہے اماں فضا ہے بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اماں فضا ارے بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں جاد کا کلیجا سد پاش ہو رہا ہے ان کا نام لے کر شام آ گیا ہے اماں فضا جزاک اللہ کو بتا دے نیزے پہ کتنے
تر ہے ان میں سارے آنکھیں ہیں بند اس کی اور خاک پر ہے گرتا عباس کا یہ سر ہے تیور بتا رہے ہیں کیا شام آ گیا ہے اماں فضا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اماں فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں لوگ اس طرح کے ہم پہ آئے سے دل بھی دکھا رہے ہیں کیا شام آ گیا ہے بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر مار رہے ہیں بتا دے مجھ پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں ماں کی گودیوں سے لپٹے ہوئے ہیں بچے ہیں ہاتھ رسیوں میں ماں کے سے جکڑے بچے جو گر رہے تھے بچے جو گر رہے ہیں وہ مرتے جا رہے ہیں کیا شام آ گیا ہے اماں فضا ارے بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اماں فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں
اور
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين وعلى الأرواح التي هلت بفنائك أمام الله أبدا ما وبكى ليل ونهار الله أحلف مني زيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذريتك علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن حسن أجل الله فرجه سهل الله مخرجه ودهوره والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته اللهم كل وليك حجة ابن حسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقاودا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا
وتمتعوا فيها طويلا برحمتك يا الراحمين.